Slurp it up.
Needed.
What is going on, everybody? Happy Mother's Day for all of you who are enjoying and helping your treating your moms, I guess, today. See how many people jump on here.
I hope you all went out and bought your mother a cash flowing property for Mother's Day. Great gift. Perfect. Today we are talking about the video that we released on Friday. Mr. Scotty's video. So he's going to be joining us on there. And I think it was on university hacking and how you can have a little extra income coming in with your children in school. So we're going to have him in on here in a second. We'll wait till we get some people on here, and then we'll bring them on in so no one misses anything.
Yeah, for anybody who is going to be on Instagram, if you did want to physically see Scotty, he's going to be joining us on our YouTube live as well as our Facebook live stream. As Aaron said, today's video is going to be about how you can essentially send your kids to school for free by purchasing rental property. Wait for a few more people to get on here. What's going on, guys? Got Sean Quigg in the house, the real estate lawyer. If anybody needs a solid real estate lawyer, check Sean out. Hit him up. He's a great lawyer. He'll be able to help you out. Alrighty, looks like we got a few people in here. What's going on, everybody? All right, we're gonna bring Scotty in. So again, for people who didn't just hear me, if you guys want to see Scott when we bring him in, just go onto our YouTube and sign in there. We'll see if we can bring him in. Hello.
What's going on, boys?
Hey, we're doing well. How are you?
Just being me, man. I was super excited. I went and had a shower. I've got my glass of wine ready for the commentary and any questions you might have.
Perfect, man. Wow, the smell-o-vision effect is a real key factor. So gotta make sure
we're ready to go here. How you guys doing? Everybody good?
Good. Yeah, doing well. Let's for anybody who doesn't know, Scott is our other half, our business partner. Scotty is in charge of our development and large commercial side construction.
Construction stuff.
The brain behind it all. He actually brought us in and taught us everything we know. So he's got a pretty cool video that we just dropped today. If you haven't seen it, go check out our YouTube video on Matt's channel. But essentially shows you how you are going to be able to purchase or put your kids through school without really costing a whole lot of cash. So Scotty's actually just going to be outlining.
This is why we brought Scotty on, because we would have butchered it.
Yeah.
No, I think you guys, like everything else you guys do in the mortgage business, I think you guys would have nailed it, but I really appreciate the advice. Thank you so much. Yeah, so essentially the video, if we want to dive right in or wait for more people, you tell me what to do. I'll take my lead from you guys. But
dive on in, buddy.
Yeah, let's dive in.
So essentially, the idea of university hacking essentially is how to use equity in a home underneath the Genworth and CMHC's secondary home for a family member program, which is a 5% down program. It carries with it the same low CMHC fee, which is 4%. It carries with it the same best interest rate as you would have on your regular mortgage, which currently is about 1.7% for a variable rate mortgage. And essentially what it is it's an ability for you to purchase a home for a family member to go away to university. Now that family member is going to live in that home while they're in university, and we estimate 4 to 5 years. So what we do is essentially we'll set you up with a 5-year term on a mortgage. And now I know most kids go to university, they go to university for 4 years, but follow me with this for a bit here, because it's actually a really cool program. So essentially in the synopsis I used in the video, I think I used a $500,000 purchase, which, I've gotten some feedback from a few people that's not really realistic. $500,000 really isn't realistic, especially in around the university towns. So I've upped my scenario here to a $600,000 home, which I think is still doable for a townhouse. I think you can still get a townhouse somewhere in a university town for $600,000. So essentially, if you were to go and buy your family member a $600,000 townhouse, you would need about $30,000 down and about $15,000 in closing costs and land transfer tax. So you'd need about $45,000 down. Now, so a couple things before we dive in. two key caveats to this program are: number one, you have to have the capital to do this. You have to have about $45,000 to do this. If you don't have it, you have to have equity in your home, and that's where Josh and Aaron will jump in and can do some really, really creative things with some of the tiered step products that we might have, or the two-tiered products that we might offer over on the AAA solution side, where we can get that equity out of your home in order to for the down payment and the closing costs. So if you've got your 40, let's say we've got your 45K and you're ready to go, that mortgage in today's interest rate is going to cost you roughly about $2,425 a month. The other caveat to this program is this is not an investment property. We're not looking for renters. We're looking to put your loved one in a home while they're going to university and renting a room to their friends while they go to university. Most people who go to university, they go away as a group. They'll go with a couple girlfriends here or a couple of buddies there. And along the way, they meet people at parties and whatever, and they join classes and they want to live together, and away you go. So in the scenario of a $600,000 townhome, that's typically going to be a 3-bedroom townhome with a basement. I would say build a secondary unit in the basement, and I would rent out 5 rooms, for example. So I would have, and I count my child's room as a rental as well. So this isn't a get out of jail free card. You're not going to be able to send your child to university for free at the beginning. This is how to pay for university over a longer period of time, let's say over 5 years. So essentially, if you've got a $600,000 house, you're going to be left with, after CMHC fees, of about a $592,000 mortgage. Now, of that $592,000, you're going to have about $2,425 a month in expense. 1/5 of that expense is going to be borne upon yourself because your child's going to be living there as well. The people in the home are going to pay for the heat and the hydro, the cable, and the internet. They're all going to split those costs anyways, as you normally would if you were in a rental anyways. Where this gets really interesting is let's say you have 5 people. So your loved one and 4 other people in this townhouse over a 4 to 5 year period. You're going to accumulate about $229,000 in gross equity in that home. So that home's going to climb in, and I've used a 5% average. I know Ontario is growing at 17% right now. I don't think that's a standard. I don't think that's the new norm, but I'm a conservative guy, so I'm going to use 5%. Once you take off of that $229,000, you're going to have to take off, obviously, real estate fees to get out. You're going to have to take off your closing costs. You're going to have to recoup your initial down payment, and then what you can do is also recoup all the cost borne of your 1/5 of that $535 or $575 a month. It was $585 a month. But once you do that, you're still going to be left with approximately, I'd say, about $130,000 of equity in that home. And that $130,000 in equity, you do one of two things. You can pass that equity along to your child so they can go and buy another property. Now, we know that anybody in Canada can get a 5% down home. You don't have to be a first-time home buyer. That's a huge myth. A lot of people out there think that you only allowed to get a 5% down mortgage right off the bat. That's not true at all. Yeah. Anybody can get a 5% down mortgage. The only true advantage of being a first-time home buyer is that you get that land transfer tax credit, and you can use your RSPs in order to help you get into the home. If you're really smart and you really planned ahead, there's a second kind of layer of this hacking, which is really awesome, is if your child has some RSP room already built up, maybe they've done some part-time jobs over their high school career and they've got a little bit, you can actually match out that RSP for 90 days and then help get them some of that back as well. So it's almost like a forced saving plan down the road. But essentially what the program does is enable you to recoup the cost. So you've got about $130,000 there, I'd say, net equity after costs. Average education in the province of Ontario for a bachelor degree, what's that going to be? $50,000-$60,000 over a 4-year term, right?
That's probably including some rental, like food and stuff too. I mean, you're probably just under 50, 60.
Yeah, probably $15,000 a year.
Yeah. So there you go. So $50,000, for example, right? Well, now you actually get to recoup that $50,000 that you paid for your child to go to university. And I think there's even another layer there where you just get your child to go and get student loans if they qualify. Delay those student loans. Once you graduate university, sell the home, pay all the student loans off. It's virtually cost you nothing to send your child to university, which again, based on your family income, if your child qualifies for those student loans or not. But the program essentially is of a deferred a deferred cost program. Essentially, at the end of the day, you're allowed to recoup those costs. There's no capital gains tax, and we will show you in another video down the road on how to save all capital gains tax by putting your child on title for 99% or 98%, yourself and your spouse for 2%, or one spouse on and 99 and 1. But we can show you that. That's another video for another time. Any questions there, guys?
No, it's a pretty cool like thought. I mean, definitely anybody who's looking to go to school or knows somebody who's looking to go to school, they're gonna have to get their parents on board. So one of the caveats that I think Scott said it at the start of the video was your parents need to be decently strong on paper. So
That's
to
right.
be able to qualify for this, you're qualifying for a secondary home. Now, for a secondary home, you're not able to use any rental income to qualify. So your
Correct.
parents are going to have a significant amount of income or have very little debt to begin with on their current primary property to be able to do this. But it's a really great way to ensure that you aren't stuck with a $60,000 OSAP bill, or if your parents are having a problem and can't figure out a way to be able to do it to help you out. This is a great way to make that step forward.
Yeah, to clarify, that's not using rental income on the subject. If your parents have non-subject rental properties, we might be able to use at least half of that rental income per month to be able to add that back on to the application to help qualify, but specifically to the subject. And because it's an insured property, those funds you're very restrictive. There is no 100% financing with this option. There is no second mortgage to help qualify. There's no vendor take back to help qualify. This is going to be a personally owned cash resource, or from like a HELOC if you have a property, some sort of equity, but cash and equity coming from your own resources to be able to move forward with this product.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. I've actually done the calculations on this, and an average family with average debts, I'd say less than $350 a month, and outside debts above their current situation that they're currently holding. In order to pull this university hack off, the average family income would have to be around $125,000 a year. So two people each making about 63 grand a year can make this product work.
Which isn't extremely difficult. I mean, I think the majority of what's the annual household income in Canada at the moment?
I would say the average annual household income is probably somewhere around the 120 to 125. I think 60 is probably average right now per person. Take out the single family incomes. Obviously, if you're just looking at two or more incomes in a home, I think 125 to 130 is not unreasonable given today's market.
And there is something to be said about being able to do this not as an owner-occupied property or as a second home. Like, this is possible to do with creative financing if you do have the ability to be able to get some sort of VTB, like long-term VTB option, or we can find a way to get you in. Equity is equity at the end of the day. Like at the end of the 4 years, if you have the $120,000, $150,000 in built-up equity in another property and you just found a different way to do it, still same solution for just a different situation. So something to consider for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not going to go without your little expenses along the way. You're going to have the average expense you would have of, let's say, owning a rental property, even though this isn't a rental property product. It's 100% ethical. It's 100% legal. You're going to have the costs along the way, right? The water softener is going to break, or the furnace is going to go on the fritz, or there's going to be little, like the door handle is going to break. This isn't a student rental program. This isn't lock your doors, put a microwave next to your bed, have a pan fryer on top of your fridge in your bedroom. This is not that program. This is a program to enable you to build up equity in a secondary home in Ontario, and anywhere in Canada actually, and reap the rewards down the road, and help your children basically go to school for free, and put some money back in your own pocket as well.
Yeah, I mean, what a great opportunity to give your kid too. If they can maintain the property and you're able to set something up with them, or if they they maintain it, they take care of it, they get some of that equity out. I mean, you talked to Sean. Sean went and bought a property while he was in school and ended up turning that into a rental property. And I think that was one of the first ones that he might have gotten into. But a great opportunity to help your kid come out of school. We know, especially right now, just because you go and get a degree doesn't mean you're going to come out and start instantly making the money that you'd like to be making. So giving them that opportunity to use some of that equity, then go make a purchase of their own, get into maybe an owner-occupied rental property. Right out of school, you have the potential to get into your first house and have someone paid off if you get into a duplex or a triplex. So great opportunity to kind of help someone right out of the gate.
Absolutely.
Get their own house and start building equity.
Absolutely. And another layer of this is nobody says you have to go and sell it at the end of the 5-year term or the 4-year term, whichever you choose. You can refinance it though, and you can refinance to 80%, take the money out. Now you have the money back to pay back your schooling. You still have the equity in the property. You can turn that property now into rental property. So now you have your first rental property. You take your equity out, you pay back your schooling, pay back your parents. And now you got your 5% down to go buy the house that you want to live in. And you can do that, again and again kind of thing, which is a great option. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. Sean actually just had a question. So could a type of program be packaged into a JV where an experienced investor could assist parents looking out for their children? Somebody who is decently sharp, who wanted to package that up and help parents who may be financially struggling find a solution. There's definitely a way to. I think there's definitely an opportunity there. I think there's always situations where people are looking for, and if there was a way for these parents to be able to provide for their kids in an alternative way other than just taking on large amounts of debt, that would be very advantageous to few people.
Why not? Right. The baseline is the affordability. As long as you have two parents who can afford it, that's really your only hurdle is getting over the affordability factor. Once you get over the affordability factor, there's so many opportunities available to JVs, vendor takebacks, future sales, rent to owns. There's so many things you can do with this house at the end of the term.
For sure. We actually just had another question from Osama G8. He said, if you have very little capital, what product can you offer to help somebody in a flip/burr scenario? So we have a 20,000 down flip product, and for many of you who don't know, that flip product is offered by one of our industry partners. You need a minimum 20,000 down. Now you do need some capital, to be able to get into the project. So you need to show us that you have the capital to actually do the work. You have the ability to be able to service the debt for the amount of time you're going to have the loan for, and you have to show us the down payment. Now the down payment can scale from 20,000 all the way to 25%, and the rate scales depending on how much you have down. It does require some capital, but a lot less than what you would conventionally need to put 20% down and then have your capital to flip. In regards to a burr, again, this works. That product works for a burr. If you are looking for just a general mom and pop lender, you're probably looking at around 20% down. So depending on how much capital you have, it is decently capital intensive to get into these flip products, especially if you're looking at some sort of alternative financing. The only way you're getting into a high leverage, low down payment scenario is if you're buying an owner occupied property. And if that's the case, you can get an outdated property. If it's in decent condition, you can get a purchase plus improvements loan, but there is a fine line being drawn by the lenders as to what is outdated and what is not livable. So definitely be aware of that. But there are products out there available for people who have, who are kind of strapped for capital.
Yeah, those AAA products max out at $40,000 or 20% above the pre renovation purchase price. So you just want to make sure you're not trying to get a big lift there. $40,000 lift is all you're going to get on that product. So,
which is really interesting, because a lot of the flips that I've done recently have had probably like $40,000 in renovations. A lot of the really big flips that I've seen a few guys walk away with multiple six-figure returns, and they've actually only put I think a lot of it has to do with the opportunity itself and just finding the right building, and that the vision. Like, a lot of these investors just have the vision and they can kind of see like a diamond in the rough. So
yeah, and I think another thing too is just having a really good understanding of what area you're buying in and who are you going to be targeting to when you're looking to rent your building in. Are you in an area where someone can't afford that $2,300 or $2,200 a month rental payment? Is it worth it in that case to go into the property and sink $150,000 to do the renovations? If you're creating this spectacular new rental property and you're looking to rent it out, the target market isn't there. I've talked to a couple of investors who I've noticed the same thing just from people they've talked to, and the amount of money that these investors are putting into some of their projects and then keeping them to rent out, the subject tenants just aren't matching what they're expecting for the house because they've gone and put that money into it. So that's where that understanding of the market, knowing who your target audience is for the tenants, do you need to put $150,000, $100,000 into the project, or does a strategic $40,000 improvement get you 80% of what you could at 100, but with 40%, 30% of the cash. So
Sure.
just understanding the market, who you're targeting to.
Yeah.
100% couldn't agree more. How many times have you guys seen recently where you're doing a rental property, mortgage, investment mortgage, and the lender is insisting on fair market rents as a backup to lease, even though there's an actual arm's length lease in place? They still want to see what the fair market rents for that area are, because if that tenant had to move or leave, right? It's not just what you're getting for the property right now. It's what could you get for the property if that tenant were to leave. Right, so the fair market rents are key. So if you're taking a $1,200, $1,300 rental market and putting in a $2,300 property, then it probably in the long run isn't going to work.
I agree. I think it's just recently that we started seeing them requiring those fair market rent.
That's correct.
For anybody who doesn't know, fair market rent valuation, you can have it added to your actual appraisal when we go to verify the value of your property. It does cost an extra $100, but they give you a low end and a high end range, and the lender will always use the low end of that range. So if you are expecting a rent and higher, like somebody cited higher than what your fair market rent is going to be, it's probably best to have an actual contract signed than it is to get the fair market rent, because it's not always as aggressive as you would expect it to be if you were going to sign somebody yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's usually a few $100 at least, less than what you would probably ideally want to rent that out. Most people, when we get, how much would you want to rent your place out for? $2,200. So the market rent report's probably coming back somewhere around $1,700 to $1,800. So, we always try to estimate that if we're using that market rent. I'll start out at $1,500 and just see what's the bare minimum we have to get in to make this work. And if it's $1,500, great. There's a pretty good chance that most of the properties are going to rent out for $1,500. But if you're going to rely on $2,500 a month to make this purchase work, you're kind of sitting within your limits there. I don't think I've ever seen a fair market rent come back at. That wasn't a single family home, maybe a triplex, but
yeah, you're always going to get bigger bang for your buck. It's a great point, Aaron. I was just thinking that while you're saying that, you're always going to get a bigger bang for your buck in multi-tenanted properties, 100%, because there's a base cost of living associated with the rental property, and that base cost seems to be about $1,100 right now. So you got 2 units, that's $2,200, right? You're easier to get $2,200 out of a house with a basement apartment than you are to get $2,500 out of a single family dwelling. 100%. I agree.
Yeah, and to capitalize on those rentals, there's a couple lenders on the A side who have pretty strong rental products. They have a pretty good rental worksheet, but if you don't have maybe the credit requirement there, or maybe you just don't have enough rental income coming in, the B lenders that we use a lot, it really does maximize your affordability. So if your market rent report needs to be at $2,500 on the A side, well, that might only need to be at $1,800 or $2,000 on the B side, which is much more likely, where you're going to have your fair market rent come back at instead of that $2,500 area. So again, just utilizing the B lenders when needed and maximizing the potential in the rental income really does increase your affordability. It's actually quite wild how much it truly does work. And as long as you have pretty good cash flow, or you're cash flowing near, like I'd say even net zero, it actually really does boost your affordability for every property that you have on the application when you're going on the B side. As long as your monthly liabilities are relatively low, because they have that 80% offset, it almost increases your affordability for every rental property you purchase, where on the A side, it impacts it quite a bit more.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I just had a conversation with a client on Thursday of this week where I had quoted him the rental rate of 2.74% for the subprime side, and he balked right away and said, "Man, that's too high. Like I see signs on the street for 1.99 and 2.09%." I said, "That's all well and good if you can afford it, but would you rather get one property at 2.09, or would you rather get 5 properties at 2.74? At the end of the day, as long as you're net cash flow positive, right? The difference between a 2.74 30-year AM and a 2.09 25-year AM is what, $150 a month? Really? At the end of the day, would you not rather have 5 properties all cash flowing, or would you rather have one property that cash flows greater than $150 a month? At the end of the day, it's not about the interest. Yeah, forget about the interest. It's about cash flow. because the interest is a write-off anyways on rental properties. You write the interest down anyways.
Yeah.
Huh.
And a lot of these guys are, a lot of the investors, if you're obviously watching, take a look at too, if you're, before you start talking about the rate, are you going to BRRRR this property? Are you only going to be in it for 6 months at most? In that case, obviously the less you can pay over those 6 months does help with the bottom line. But depending on what that is, if you're able to, if it's still cash flowing and you're only going to be in there for 4 months, 3 months, does that extra few basis points you're looking to shave really make a big difference in this scenario?
Right.
If it means qualifying at an extra, I see $200,000 to $300,000 in increase
Sure.
in profitability sometimes going from the A side to the B side. Obviously, you're limited to the down payment. Yeah, with increased purchase price, you got to have a higher down payment. But if you have HELOCs or additional cash to utilize to get in, a great option, especially if you're going to burn and get that cash back anyways.
Agree. Couldn't agree more. Well said.
Yeah, just obviously something to keep in mind is if you guys are looking to BRRRR properties, make sure you're doing the second calculation. Everybody does the, can I afford it? And like, sure, can you afford to get into a property? Like, we can get it. Most people who have a job and decent credit and a down payment, we can get into a property. Now, the calculation you really want to do is what does my cash flow look like once I refinance this property? So what are your expectations for your ARV value? What is the expected rent? And then what is your cash flow based off of the type of product that you're going to be getting? And that's the difference between working with a broker who's going to think 3 steps ahead and a broker who's just going to try to get you into one property. Because that one property, if it's not done correctly, isn't going to allow you to refinance and get that other property to be able to pull the cash out. And the last thing you want to do is be reactive, start your refinance and realize your cash flow negative because you got to pull all the cash out that you just put in to get for the renovations, and you want to go buy another property. So just make sure you guys are looking at that second set of numbers, because those are arguably the most important set of numbers.
Yeah, and for everyone who's looking to get on the path of doing a BRRRR or anything, maybe a flip, something like that, but more so on the BRRRR side, that first mortgage is really the most important mortgage. So we get a lot of guys who'll come to us, ask us some questions, and then say, okay, well, I'm going to be working with my old broker, but on the next one, like, I want to hit you guys up and work with you guys, which is totally fine. We have no problem with that. But making sure your other broker has the investing based knowledge. I've seen some people who use that other broker and they get stuck in a 5-year fixed, or maybe something with a bona fide sale clause, and then before you know it, all your equity is locked up, and now you don't have any access to that equity. And that's that whole key of being able to move forward. So again, just if you're going to use a broker you used in the past, make sure they have an understanding of how your equity works, how the mortgage terms works, what the penalties are, and sets you up for the best position to be able to move forward. Because as soon as you tie that equity up, you set yourself back 3 to 5 years saving up money for an additional down payment.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the difference. Somebody chasing a commission and somebody's looking after your long-term financial interests too. Absolutely 100%.
Sure. Yep, absolutely.
For sure. Well, that was a great video, Scotty. Really appreciate you jumping on here. We know it is Mother's Day. We are going to let everybody kind of get out of here. We're hitting roughly our 30-minute mark. So again, we appreciate everybody who comes on here every single Sunday and asks questions and tunes in. If you guys are looking, if you just jumped in and you've only seen a little bit, you can just catch it on YouTube. It will be posted later on today. If you have any questions, drop it in the comment section below. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and the like button. It helps us be able to share our content with you guys. Again, we do really appreciate it, and we will see you all next week. All right, guys, take care.